Hey, folks, what's going on? Hope you're doing well. Hope you are surviving this cold spell of winter. Andy Campbell here, along with the Bard, Sean Fitzgerald, and Jimmy O'Malley. Season 8, episode 13 of the Rinkcast. 1-3. There it is. It is the 13th. We won't get it wrong again. Anyway, hope everyone's doing well. We wanted to touch base tonight. A lot of Blackhawks information today. A lot going on, a lot of roster moving. But first, how are you all doing? Bardo, welcome back. One of our listeners was very upset you were not here last weekend, but you are. And how have you been, my friend?
I'm here now, but doing well and can't complain.
Yay, very good. And Sean, have you recovered from a glorious Notre Dame football season? Tough ending, but they had a great year. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling pretty good. They had a great season. It was the most fun I've had. It saved my sports fandom because most of my teams were in the toilet.
Yes.
Although the Blackhawks, there's some promising things coming through the pipe, and I'm excited about the future. So, but yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. Jimmy, hi.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
It's going well. My wife is ecstatic because she's a Ohio State girl. So
Oh, boy.
she had a great Monday.
Everyone has their flaws. So,
Well,
okay,
my wife
Jim.
is
We
flawless.
forgive you. Well, happy for your wife, kind of, but not really. At any rate, welcome back, folks. A lot happened today. Quite a few things. Ethan Del Mastro got called up to the big club. Wyatt Kaiser got sent down, and the Blackhawks have a signing. AJ Spellacy. Big news today. A lot of Hawk movement here. Rosterville. Anyway, let's talk about Ethan Del Mastro. Ethan Del Mastro has been a great prospect for the Blackhawks. He had an awesome World Junior tournament the year that Bedard was drafted. I believe he was a fourth-round pick. Was he picked by Stan Bowman? Fourth-round pick in 2021?
That's correct.
pick 105.
There you go, 105. Excellent. But anyway, he is, even though Stan is out the door, this is one of the prospects that has shown some really encouraging signs. AHL All-Star last season was. He's been called up to the big club. Wyatt Kaiser's been sent down. Jimmy O'Malley, who's been covering the Rockford IceHogs for us this year, has the scoop. What has Del Mastro been like this year? Are you surprised that this call-up is happening now? And what can we expect from this young man?
I'm not surprised at all. I think the last 10 games, he's really settled into his defensive game, and he's very much a defensive defenseman. He plays that bottom couple pairing role down in Rockford. You look at his box score stats, and it's not going to jump off the page. Only 8 assists in 38 games, no goals. But his game is far more refined. He's big. He's physical. He's 6'4". Yeah. He's 200 pounds. He plays big. He's learned to play as a big defenseman. And I would say for expectations when it comes to Del Mastro, he's the prototypical bottom pairing guy, but he's a lot more physical. He prides himself on the defensive side of the ice, which is something I think the Blackhawks need in their defensive core prospect pool. You talk about Wyatt Kaiser, and we'll talk about him soon, but in terms of play style, it's very, very different. I think Kaiser is a better skater, but Del Mastro, I think he's a smarter defender. I think he likes operating in the defensive zone. That's where he feels most comfortable. Mm-hmm. So that's what the Blackhawks are getting. They're getting a 22-year-old. He just turned 22 on the 15th. They're getting a more refined defenseman compared to a couple guys already in the NHL that have gotten a cup of coffee.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. And I don't – is this a Sorensen move? Is this Sorensen, Bardo, do you think, saying, well, this is the guy that I worked with and that I coached and, hey, it's been nice having Wyatt up here, but I kind of want to go with someone that I'm a little bit more familiar with. Do you think that has something to do with this as far as do you think Kyle Davidson gave him that flexibility and he had some weigh in on this potentially?
I'm sure he had some sort of a voice in it, but to me, I think everything Jimmy said was spot on because, I think they need somebody who is a little bit better defensively. Wyatt Kaiser is just another good skating, smallish, lousy defensive defenseman, or not very good defensively. So to me, I think this is a kid who's, had some time at the AHL. He's developed. He's been an all-star, et cetera. We all know, his background. I think now's the time to give him a chance. This team is not going anywhere. And I think it's a good time. I think this is just going to be a slower process. This year, we're going to start to see a lot of the other prospects start to come up as their college season ends, and as the season goes on, and as guys get traded off the roster, coming up in the next couple of weeks. So why not?
Okay, I like it. Shawnee, do you like this move? Number one, and number two, could this possibly be the beginning of the end of Wyatt Kaiser in terms of being on the roster with the Blackhawks? I mean, maybe he'll be back up at some point, but something ain't feeling right when he's around, is it?
No, yeah. To answer your first question, I like the move. I think it's rewarding a guy who's played well as of late, and we've seen them do that. They rewarded Kevin Korchinski earlier this season, bringing him out for that short stint to see, kind of get a progress report to see where he's at. And I think that's what they're doing with Del Mastro here. Ben Pope and other people have written that Del Mastro and Wyatt Kaiser are similar, and they're kind of in that position where you don't really know where they fit in terms of the defensive prospect pool. So I think if Del Mastro shines in this stint he has here, I think maybe, like you said, Kaiser might be pushed farther down the pecking order, and ultimately, maybe not this season, but maybe next year he's flipped out for a change of scenery or traded. Because I think he's on the lower end of the prospect pool, Wyatt Kaiser in that terms. I think Del Mastro's not in the level of Leshinov or Sam Renzel, but I think he's the next level down in terms of the prospects. So
yeah, I think we have spoken about this before, that it almost feels like it's a matter of time before Wyatt Kaiser falls out of favor.
Yeah.
Just for prospects that have a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
I also think that Nolan Allen, I don't think people expected Nolan Allen to be as solid as he is this year. He certainly has his flaws, and who knows, except for the Bard.
It's fan club, baby. I'm telling you.
The slow hand. Yeah. I mean, Nolan Allen, I think when the team competes, bottom six pairing guy, which is fine. But he is, if you look at his rookie season in comparison to Wyatt Kaiser's last year, I think Nolan Allen seems like the more sturdy of the two. And so it is time to give someone a shot. At some point, when are you going to give Ethan Del Mastro his shot? If you don't do it soon, at some point you need to give him a real solid audition to see if he is an NHL player. Sorry, Shawnee, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, Ethan Del Mastro has only played 2 NHL games for his tenure, and Wyatt Kaiser has played he's played about 80 games about 80 games in the NHL. So it's time to give Del Mastro a little bit of run and see what he's got. And you got to find out what you have, because we'll get to it later, but they're already thinking about roster construction for next season and the future, and especially with the move of hiring, whose name is escaping me, O'Hearn, I think, from Minnesota.
Yep,
the capologist, essentially. That's what he's brought in to manage the salary cap. And the only reason you're going to make a move like that is because you're thinking of spending money and upgrading your roster, and you're going to have to pay guys long-term in the future. So,
I mean, you have one NHL defenseman that is a left-handed shot that is a real NHL defenseman right now, and that's Alex Vlasic, who's currently on the roster. And other than that, TJ Brodie has been miserable this season. He has not had a good season. He's at the end of his career. He might be waived at some point. I don't even know if he'll be on the roster next season. And so then the next best defenseman that you have that are up there that are left-handed shots, you've got Allen and you've got Kaiser. It's time to give Del Mastro a shot, get him in there. And it should be really fun to see. And a big boy too. I mean, he's physical, isn't he not, Jimmy? I mean, he plays with an edge. He sounds like he'll be tougher to play against than Wyatt Kaiser is.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was his main goal this year in the AHL, is just to become a more physical defenseman. I mean, like I mentioned, 6'4", 200 pounds, you kind of expect it to. Almost a Crevier-Creever kind of build, where, if you're not going to use that, physical advantages that you have, then you are limiting yourself.
Yeah, and Wyatt Kaiser is only 6 feet, 173, generously. So.
Yeah, he's slender.
So, Del Mastro has 4 inches in height and 30 pounds in weight on Wyatt Kaiser.
And he's He's a good skater. He's not an elite skater. Good
Right.
skater.
Right.
Yeah.
It isn't the golden rule with developing defensemen in the NHL level. Like you want to see between 100 and 200 games to kind of figure out where they are. And I think we're almost at that point, like you said, with Kaiser, though. I think we knew a lot earlier what he was. But now it's like, Del Mastro, you said, Jimmy, he's 22 already. So it's like, I think it's time to start that clock and figure out what he is. Because his body, I don't know if it's going to get that much more mature as a 22-year-old. So I think now is the time to just, start his clock and get him, figured out. So.
Well, it's very exciting. I mean, I think the more prospects we see starting to come up and get games, the better at this point. I mean, I certainly understand why they're marinating in Rockford. But Frank Nazar, we all were talking about how it was only going to be a matter of time. I think he's up for the big club for the rest of the season at this point.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if he's sent back down. I think he's an NHL hockey player right now.
Yep.
And don't forget, Andy, the plan was to bring him up later in the season. Just his play at the AHL level forced the Blackhawks to call him up early.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he was doing that well, which is cool, which is really exciting. So, well, awesome. Well, it'll be fun to see EDM in uniform doing well. One other big roster-ish type note: AJ Spellacy, the prospect, third round pick in the 2024 draft, now in the Windsor Spitfires, Ohio native. We were just talking about the Buckeyes a second ago. Ohio native, playing on the Windsor Spitfires, narrowly missed making the World Junior team, the United States World Junior team this year, which would have been really cool. But AJ Spellacy signed with the Blackhawks today for an entry-level contract, 3-year, $975K, if I believe is the entry-level deal. What does this mean? When are we going to see him? What's happening here? Bardo, were you surprised? Is this something? I mean, you're hearing all of these Hawk fans celebrating because he was the darling of the preseason, if you will. Bardo,
the timing is a little bit of a surprise, but he was a surprise. Let's remember that. He came a little bit out of left field during the preseason, and look, he narrowly missed the as you said, the World Junior roster. So, who knows the reason why they sort of started his pro contract today. Perhaps, as we were talking about off the air, we were saying that maybe there was a college that was trying to sign him. Who knows? Obviously, those rules have changed significantly, not only on the football level but also on the hockey level. So, it's certainly possible. I mean, I'm not expecting him to be an NHL player really anytime soon, but you never know. They may start his clock and give him some time for the 9 games. I don't know if that's even possible for this year, but we'll see.
Yeah, interesting. Sean, you brought up a really good point right before we got going. He cannot report to the AHL for some time.
Right.
He is 19, and so he won't be in Rockford, or he turns 19 next month. So he can't even go to Rockford until a year from now. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, he's 19, so he'll be 19 in February. If you're drafted out of the Canadian Hockey League, which he was drafted out of the OHL, you cannot go to the AHL until you're 20 years old. That's the agreement the NHL and the NHL and the CHL have in place. A lot of HLs there.
Well, I think what's interesting, and Jimmy, I'd be curious your take on this. What's more interesting now that has never really happened before is the fact that they signed him. He cannot go and play college hockey now. He's no longer NCAA eligible, where he could have played out this year with the Windsor Spitfires and then committed to an NCAA institution and played college hockey. So I wonder if, kind of almost the haste to sign him right now is just to make sure that he got into the Blackhawks system sooner rather than later. Is there any merit to that kind of theory, or is that just something?
It could be. Admittedly, there may have been a few teams, maybe Ohio State. Thanks, Jeff.
Very nice avatar.
Yeah, you look great, but
he looks just like him.
With the new collective bargaining agreement, he can sign the ELC and remain in the OHL, not just for the remainder of this season, but also next season. So this is definitely, I see this more as a protective move, just a move of like, okay, we want to see if we can get him, if at best maybe he has another great camp this summer and he forces the Blackhawks' hand and he's way in front. That would be great, but I believe more than likely we got to keep him away from college. We got to have him ready for 2 years from now, where if he goes to college and he has a 2-year commitment, then we can't get him until he's 21. And then now we're struggling to get these young guys minutes because we had to wait on Spellacy along with all these other young guys. So I lean towards that theory that indeed he was just kept away from the college level. He's going to more than likely stay in the OHL for the remainder of this season and the remainder of next season. And maybe after the new year, because the rule is you have to turn 20 by December 30th of that year. So maybe in 2026, we could see him in the AHL.
Oh,
maybe at the end of the season.
Huh.
Or maybe to start the 2026-2027 season in the AHL.
Yeah, that's a little different than I thought. Wow.
So, yeah, so that's my theory. My theory is this may have been a move to get him to the AHL at the end of next season and the end of the 2025-2026 season, get him that cup of coffee then, and then see what he has during the 2026 offseason in camp.
Yeah. Huh.
So, yeah, that's my theory.
I really doubt that he's even going to be up even at the end of this year to burn, the year, because I also think like even if there's some trades that are made, I think there's just other guys like Ryan Green, among others, that are just going to be ahead of him that are going to probably be given priority to come to the NHL.
Yeah,
I'd also give that priority to guys like Gavin Hayes and Landon Slaggert, maybe even Paul Ludwinski. Yeah, it's just, I think Spellacy, there's a pecking order in front of him. He probably just hasn't earned that right to get that NHL debut and cup of coffee quite yet. And offer more.
And I want to put it out there that this is not similar to the Kevin Korchinski situation where they signed Korchinski and then they had a choice between sending him back and having him come up for all of last season. This is not that situation because Spellacy is not at the level that Kevin Korchinski was in the WHL when they signed into his deal. So this is just getting a guy under contract. Like Spellacy is going to go back to the OHL next season for sure. And he could play another year in the OHL before he actually has to come up because the OHL age limit is 16 to 20 and he's not even 19. Korchinski's situation was different in that Korchinski dominated the WHL and they didn't feel it was, beneficial for him to be back there. Spellacy currently is ranked 117th in the OHL in points. Mm-hmm. So,
and he's kind of cooled off as of late too.
Yeah,
he has like 2 points in the last 10 games.
I just
not to say he's bad. It's just
theory that they're doing this. They're setting up for Kevin Korchinski. Oh, he's too good for the OHL, and that's why they're going to come up. They're not going to. They're going to.
It's apples and oranges. I mean,
right.
it totally is. And I think the other thing with Spellacy is everyone was so excited about how he burst onto the scene, but he's also, for 18, he's 6'3", 205. I mean, he is more physically developed than most 18-year-olds, Korchinski and that same fabric. So I think that's part of his excitement is this big boy shows up who's got a football background.
And is finally fully committed to hockey.
Yeah, skates like the wind and is going through a wall. So I think kind of that protective signing saying we don't want to lose this kid in the event that he becomes something. A big part of that. But here's to him. I mean, a great reward for, the time that he's put into it and, still pretty exciting news. But
100%.
Yeah, but I don't, he will not be with the NHL team for some time.
Yeah.
Down the road. So, but hey, here's to you, man. First pro contract, very decent. A lot of people would love to make that kind of money doing anything. And at 18 to ink that kind of deal is pretty cool. So congrats to AJ Spellacy. Congrats to the Meatballs that thinks that his banner is going to go up in the rafters soon. And man, all the power to him. Cool. Let's go on to some trade rumblings. March 7th. The trade deadline is probably, 6.5 weeks away, something like that. I don't know. I'm bad at math, as Gate knows. So anyway, Scott Powers released an article today about the Blackhawks and what he believes their plans are. And one of them is a little contradictory to some of the things that we were talking about with one of their players, Ryan Donato. Ryan Donato is now rumored to be the Blackhawks. The plans are to trade him before the deadline. Ryan Donato's had a great season, on a bad team. He's been great. I don't have it in front of me, but I would venture to say he's got 13 goals around there, 12, 13 goals, something of that. Shawnee's looking it up right now. But a great season, and a lot of people, myself included, thought, well, at the age of 28, why not just extend him for a couple years? And now it sounds like the plans are to trade him. Bardo, what can they get for this Dexter School alum who plays Brooks School this Saturday? And what do you think of this?
I mean, to me, I was one of the few that actually was for keeping him and maybe extending him. But, that goes back to probably November-ish. And here we are in the latter stages of January, and this team is the worst team in hockey, and he's having a good year. So therefore, trade him. I mean, if you stink with him, then you know what? I don't think just even you're probably going to stink. Whatever. Point is that sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. But point is that I think if you can get a Hagel type of offer for him, I would swing that deal in 2 seconds. I think his value is never going to be higher.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think you'll get a Hagel offer for him, but
why not? Who thought that they were going to get a Hagel offer for Hagel?
Well, I don't know. I think Brandon Hagel was much more valuable than Ryan Donato is and ever will be. I mean, I doubt Ryan Donato is going to command 2 first-round picks.
Depends what the market
Just
is.
Saying. All right.
It depends what the market is. I mean, you telling me what the? I mean, look, would I bet on it?
I guess, yeah, Bart. I am telling you, we're not going to get 2 first-round picks.
Okay, well, would I bet on it? No.
Yeah, I guess I am. So
would I bet on it? No. Do I think it's out of the question? No. I honestly didn't. No one thought Hagel was getting 2 first-round picks.
No, but people at least thought he'd get a first-round pick. I don't think you get that for Ryan Donato either. I mean, that I'm not telling you.
That's not old.
No.
He's 28 years old. He's been on 3 teams now. So he's got 14.
I think a second-round pick possible.
Maybe a conditional second-rounder.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Jimmy, what do you think of the whole situation?
I don't even see us getting a first.
No.
I like Bardo's optimism, but the problem is, again, Donato turns 29 in April. Hagel was 23, and Hagel was having back-to-back on pace for 40-point seasons, and Donato, this might be his first year of his career where he eclipses 40, and he's doing it on a really bad team. Now, I'm in Andy Campbell's camp of I don't really want to trade this guy. I like Donato too much. I think he's one of those guys that can really continue to be a good bridge forward where you can put him anywhere in the lineup and he can perform and he can help a lot of the young guys perform at a high level. I have a really high bar for wanting to trade this guy. It's either I really want to trade him at above value, either a first-round pick or a second plus a couple other assets. Like I want a lot for Donato. The nice thing is, though, and I think I saw a tweet about this earlier, like there's 5, 6, or was it like 7 teams in the Eastern Conference within like 4 points of each other, and they're all in the playoff race. And it really is a seller's market right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many teams competing, especially in the East. There's not a ton of teams with a lot of assets to trade out. I think the Blackhawks are in a good position where they can really maximize Donato's value. Is it 2 first-round picks? I'm sorry, Bart. I think that's wishful thinking. Maybe 1 first-round pick if you do it. If you get lucky, Donato gets hot. The market, continues to be positive towards the Blackhawks. But yeah, I'm still in the Andy Campbell camp of I'd rather extend this guy unless I get above value for what he is, and above value to him, I think, is a first. And
I think 1 is very realistic. But because it is a seller's market, because I was just trying to think like who's actually going to be realistic that's going to be productive, that's going to be on the market. I can't think of anybody.
What about his teammate Taylor Hall?
Well,
He's a little lesser.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the argument with Taylor and the problem with Taylor, it's twofold.
Durability.
Well, actually now threefold. Durability,
Yeah.
age, he's 33, 3 contract. I mean, it's $6 million compared to Donato's $2 million.
Right.
More than likely, the Blackhawks would have to retain on Taylor Hall.
Well, that's
get him out of
they
town.
have one retained spot left, so they can do that.
They can do that.
Yeah.
But that lessens his value, obviously, on the open
And that
market.
might be safe for Seth Jones, too.
Yeah. I mean, it all, I also think it depends on what the plan is for some of the kids.
Well,
because you've got Colton Dock, who's doing pretty well. You have Nazar, who's doing pretty well. We didn't know how these auditions were going to go. If the intentions are to sign Ryan Green and Oliver Moore and give them NHL time right away, someone's got to go.
Right. And that's Powers alluded to that in his article.
Right.
Like they're going to open up roster spots. And let's not forget Landon Slager, too,
Right.
going to get some time in NHL. So that's 3 forward spots. If you trade Donato, you trade Hall, that's only 2 spots. You still got to move somebody off the roster, or you've got to send somebody down. So at least those 2 guys are going. Maybe Lucas Reichel is the 3rd guy that goes.
Yeah, that one, I don't know. We've
beaten that horse.
Yeah, we talk about that ad nauseum. What on earth do you do with Lucas Reichel? I mean, he's still so young. I mean, he's 22, correct?
Yeah. I think he's 22, 23.
He's 22 years old. And I mean, he's still not physically developed. It doesn't seem like, and you do see college hockey players playing at 22 to 24 years old, who it takes them a little while to get into their frame. And I wonder if they're going to hang on to him for at least through this contract, just to see how he does. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine the return on Reichel. You'll definitely get more for Donato or more for Hall than you would for Reichel, I would think.
Kurashev is probably going to be another one that goes, but
Kurashev.
Yeah,
Kurashev's
you're not going to get much from him.
No,
he might just be outright released. Like,
yeah. And
Yeah,
I think the other forwards,
future considerations.
yeah.
You just
other
kinda
forwards
give
to move.
Yeah, you give them away.
Give him to the Swiss League.
Yeah, he might be. I mean, you could see it towards the end of Marcus Kruger's time in the NHL. You're like, this is his last season.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could just see it. And it's like that's
unless you could somehow pull off find another team that's got a change of scenery guy that was once upon a time a 40, 50 point scorer. And then you could say, okay, we'll take your trash for our trash. And then boom, there's your deal.
Yeah. It seems like the general consensus now is if Seth Jones is going to be moved, it is going to be after this year.
Yeah.
It'll be kind of more of a draft move. And, Al Samaglia, for whatever reason, Al brings up a lot of good points. He's still convinced that Seth Jones will never be traded because he would have been traded right when Kyle Davidson took over, or Kyle Davidson should have traded him right when he took over at a time when Seth Jones was pretty much untradeable.
Yeah.
When he had 6 years left on a contract and the salary cap was staying flat.
Correct.
He was not going to be traded then.
And with a no movement clause.
Right. So you can't pin this on Kyle Davidson that he should have done something a while ago. It's just not.
We all knew his contract was, God willing, going to get better as time progressed and as the cap goes up. So that wasn't the time. That made no sense.
If Brent Seabrook's deal was moved, Seth Jones' deal can be moved.
Yes.
Sure.
Like, that's made it possible. So anything.
Seth Jones, is he even 30 years old yet?
I don't think so. I think he's still in his 20s.
I mean, he'll be playing in the NHL.
He turned 30 in October.
Okay.
30 in October. But I mean, he could still have 5 or 6 fairly productive seasons left in the NHL.
Yeah. And he's on a contract for all of them.
Yeah.
Or at least 4 of them.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting with the kids. And I do like that Scott Powers said that the hope is that Oliver Moore and Ryan Green and Sam Renzel sign and play in the NHL next year or this spring, which is fascinating. I think only Ryan Green is AHL eligible. I think he's the only 20-plus guy, age-wise. I think Renzel. Well, maybe Renzel and I don't know. They're sophomores, so they could be nearing 20. So AHL next year, come in and have a cup of coffee, then go to the AHL next year. I don't know how that whole thing.
Yeah, Renzel is 20 years old already.
Okay.
So he's
Well,
old.
speaking of roster construction and trades, let me throw this out at you.
Oliver Moore is also 20.
Okay, let me throw this out at you. Do the Hawks trade a goalie?
I don't know.
I want to.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great. I
It'd be
mean,
great. I don't know if they do it.
no, I don't know if they do it either. I mean, I think that Arvid Soderblom has had a great season. I don't think anyone saw that coming. He's been great for who he is. Can he carry the load as a number one going into next year?
Because Brossois is the big Riddler symbol, the question mark.
No one knows what's going on with that guy. I mean, we've never seen him.
Yeah.
He's on the IR. He hasn't been around. So I mean, I guess you could deal Mrazek, but then all of a sudden, your backup becomes Drew Comesso just like that. And going into next year, and I don't know, Jimmy, your thoughts on Comesso? He's kind of been up and down with Rockford. Is he ready to be a number 2 in the NHL come next season?
I think next year should be his long-awaited big trial in the NHL. He's 22 years old. He's had some good performances in the AHL, some bad. I mean, he's had 2 shutouts this year. He's a .902 save percentage in Rockford. I mean, he's facing a lot of shots. Like, Rockford has a tendency to give up a lot of shots, but, in the last 2 games, 3 goals against, 66 saves. I mean, he's playing well. And if you trade Mrazek in season, I know where Brossois is a big question mark. I know we talked about it a lot, but I Mrazek has sub 900 save percentage. I mean, I think Mrazek is just starting to kind of falter at the wheel here. I'd rather take, when Brossois comes off the IR and is ready to be 1A, 1B with Soderblom, I'd rather do that because I'd rather take the mystery box of Soderblom and kind of see what he has with,
Yeah, I mean, one more year of Mrazek under contract at 4.2. I mean, he's movable. I mean, someone would definitely be interested in him, and I mean, I think you could get a really plausible return out of that.
He's a goalie though. He can't be like we've seen based on his he gets overexposed when he plays too much. So
sure, I mean we've never seen him with a good team in front of him in Chicago anyway.
True,
I mean,
but it's also health. Like he plays too many games, he gets hurt. So he's got to play at 30 to 45 range. I think is probably his sweet spot. I mean, he played 56 last year with the Hawks, and he's played 28 this year. So 56 is the most games he's played since when he was 23 years old with the Red Wings, and he played 54. So I think his sweet spot is like 40 to 45 games for Mrazek. So if you're going to trade him someplace, you've got to be under the impression that he's a tandem goalie, like he's a 1A.
Right. Well, here's another. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think they'd like to deal him. I just don't think they can deal him because I just think the numbers just don't add up right now relative to the position. I mean, we have no idea if this other guy who they signed is even going to be back. Yeah, Brossois. We have no idea when he's going to be back. So
I mean, his name has been. I mean, if you were to Google his name, you'd see and click the news button, you'd see stuff from weeks and weeks ago.
He's like Kaiser Sose.
Yeah, just
I'm not convinced he's a real person. So.
Yeah. The other name I'm going to throw out there that hasn't been thrown out in any sort of trade rumblings whatsoever is Connor Murphy. Is there a market at all for any sort of meaningful return for Connor Murphy? He's 31 years old. He's on the IR. He does have a groin injury. He never finishes a complete season. However, I don't think that on a contending team, he would log the kind of minutes that he does in Chicago. He would play a lot less. The Winter Classic, he played 19 and a half minutes. Anyway, 4.2 is, he's got 1 year left on 4.25 AAV. Is there any market out there for Connor Murphy, or is that just another name that you say maybe in the offseason, if it comes up, you think about it?
I think there's a decent market for a defensive defenseman like Murray. I mean, he hasn't been fantastic, but he's always just been kind of consistent. Probably one of the Blackhawks' better defensive defensemen since he's been, with the team back in, what was it, 2018,
Mhm.
2017, 2018. I wouldn't expect much in return, but if you shopped him around, I think the Blackhawks could really find something. It just definitely depends on what they're willing to trade him for, and if they do want to trade him. I like Murphy. I think Murphy stabilizes the defensive end of the Blackhawks defensive core, probably far better than Seth Jones does. So I would wait. I think he should probably finish out the season, because if you trade him, who's your defensive defenseman?
Who's your three?
Brody?
Who's your
Alex
three?
Martinez.
Because it's Seth Jones, Vlasic, and Murphy, and then it's like you said, Brody, Martinez, Nolan Allen, Del Mastro. Like, it's question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, we're doing the Riddler game again.
Yeah.
Unless Dubas took Jake McCabe and that forward whose name is escaping me, and gave us a first-round pick and something else. So if Dubas is desperate, even though he's blowing it all up in Pittsburgh, maybe he'll want Connor Murphy as part of his rebuild.
Yeah. I don't know. And it's also one of those. I mean, certain names might be thrown out as sweeteners. There might be packaging, all sorts of stuff. It might never just be a guy for a guy or a guy for prospects. What's that?
It was Sam Lafferty who was the forward. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Who knows? It's just another one of those. Like, I think Connor Murphy, after his contract expires at the end of next season, he probably won't be around anymore. I don't see any reason why you re-sign him. With kids coming up and being ready, and who knows, maybe after next year, you've got guys like after the 25-26 season, you will have guys like Rinzel and Zhamnov who may be ready by then.
Yeah.
Those right-handed defensemen. What's that, Bardo?
It's an interesting thing to watch for this deadline is that, Jimmy, you mentioned it's a seller's market. And so, maybe prices might be slightly inflated, but I think the Blackhawks are at a little bit of an advantage over most teams because they have so many draft picks that they're looking to also spread picks around. So when we talk about maybe getting a first round pick from another team, maybe it's a 27 or 28 first round pick.
Yeah, could be later. Yep.
It's like, who knows what's going to happen for teams 3 years down the line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for a team that's looking to win it all and push their chips to the middle, it's possible.
Yeah. I do really hope, though, at some point that when we're talking about all these deals, like names like Rantanen have been thrown out there, possibly being traded because the Avs don't want to lose him for nothing at the end of the season when he signs somewhere for $12 million a year. Everyone was kind of hoping that the Hawks would enter in the JT Miller / Peterson sweepstakes. Who knows if that'll happen? But at some point with all of these trades and all of these moves, when you make moves, you got to bring back some sort of NHL player.
Yeah.
I know we say it all the time, and Kyle's done such a great job in stockpiling picks, but at some point we need players.
Right.
This
might be the year too, like Bardo and you said, Andy, like you go out and you make a move for next season and beyond. You go out and get Rantanen and you pay him, and then you've given up some of your assets that you have, but you pay him because you know that you're gonna have a bunch of young kids come up next year, so you already have a veteran potential or a star player in place that you could put kids around and keep going. Because at some point, like you said, Andy, you've got to start. Okay, we've got to start building something here. We've got to we've cleared the deck. The foundation is kind of laid. We've got to start putting stuff on top of it now.
Yeah, I don't. It was cool to see Scott Powers in his article start to talk about forecasting for how much a lot of these guys are going to cost and when their contracts are coming up and things like that. And the idea Connor Bedard might get a new contract as early as this summer. Very exciting to think about there. But, that eventually you're going to have to pay the kids after their entry-level contracts in 2 or 3 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to command money. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, Vlasic's probably calling up his agent right now and going, God, is that really the best you could have done for me, pal? I mean, that what a bargain that was. So I think this summer is the time to spend on a free agent. That's out there that could be pretty key. So we'll see. Anything else? What is going, Jimmy? What's going on in Rockford these days? I have not been following the Ice Hogs. How have they been playing? Any surprises? Any guys you're like, all right, this guy's kind of coming along. Maybe he's got a future.
Kuzman is still waiting to make his debut. It sounds like he may be having some visa issues, which is why he hasn't played in the last few games.
That's right.
Yeah. They just dropped a pretty heartbreaking overtime loss last night in Milwaukee. They were up by 1 with like a minute left, and Gavin Fitzgerald made a diving play to block the shot, but the shot went up his stick right over the left shoulder of Mitchell Weeks, which tied the game at the end of regulation. That kind of stunk.
That stinks.
But I mean, I think the name that stands out the most to me, it's our guy. It's the defenseman who, name is escaping me, but he's the player who we broke when it came to him signing with the Rockford Ice Hawks, if I remember.
Aereo or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a goal and assist yesterday in Milwaukee. He's playing very well.
Chicago Steel product.
Yeah, he's playing very well since making his debut. He's got a goal and assist, and this last game, I think that was the first time we've ever had a goal. One game with both a goal and an assist. So good for him. I mean, he's picked up right where Rockford wants him to be at. He's fit into that kind of middle pairing to bottom pairing role. And hopefully if Kuzman, that whole situation gets figured out, with Kaiser coming down, that at least calms the worries of any situation where you're playing with 5 defensemen in their Saturday game against the Chicago Wolves. But yeah, that's about it. It's mostly on the defensive side. Teams giving up a lot of shots on goal, but it hasn't translated to losses. They're still hanging around. They're still in a playoff spot in the Central Division. So a lot of living without guys like Nazar and Doc. You can tell like they miss those guys, like especially on the forward side. They miss their productivity, but they're sticking around. They're playing tough games. They're playing close games.
Good.
And the Hawks will probably on paper send Doc and Nazar down to make them eligible for the AHL playoffs, I would assume.
When do they need to do that by?
It's like a week after the trade deadline.
I think so.
They have to send them down after that.
They have to it's like a paper transaction.
Yeah.
You basically send them down for the day and then bring them back up. So they don't even have to move. They probably just tell them stay in your apartment or hotel room. You're not actually going back to Rockford.
We'll send you a couple DocuSigns. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, something like that. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's a smart way to do it. I think these guys, as great as it is to have them in Chicago, Rockford playoff experience would help a lot. Just the atmosphere and the intensity of playing playoff hockey, especially when you're on the bad team like Chicago Blackhawks, it will help down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it with Rockford.
That's good. That's good.
Is Savoie going to be one of the guys that they call up later in the year?
Ooh, man, that's tough. You can really look at any of the guy forwards on the roster and really want to call him up. Like Cole Gutman has been a beast lately.
Yeah,
I've loved his game. I mean, he took Nazar's spot in the AHL All-Star game after Nazar's call up, and he's a dog. Like he could really be called up tomorrow and fit in, like take Kuroshev's spot on the 4th line and fit in.
But they've already seen him for like 40-something games in the NHL, and it was meh.
It was, but Cole Gutman has never really had this kind of performance, even in the AHL. Sure, he's 25, but still, I mean, even in the AHL, he's on pace for 70 points this year.
Oh, okay.
And he, like I said, dog. Like his career high in the AHL was 40 points last year, but like he's already at 37 in 38 games this year. I really think maybe he could get a cup of coffee, just kind of a last hurrah with the organization. I don't know if he's signed through next year, but I like Gutman's play. I think we might see him after the trade deadline when the roster kind of thins
the
out.
sentimental value of a Reese Johnson type thing. Yeah,
I could see it.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for the recap in Rockford. Very exciting. Well, while it is freezing cold, and there's not much to love about Blackhawks games right now. They are home tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But start to pay attention, folks, I guess, to the playoff races, because those might have huge implications of what the Blackhawks may or may not do come trade deadline. The wild card race in the East right now is so competitive, and there are so many teams vying for it. And there might be a few desperate GMs out there trying to save their jobs by making some pretty significant moves at the deadlines. I'm looking at you, Boston. I'm looking at you, Detroit.
Speaking of which, Carolina's up 5-4 at home over Columbus after 2.
Gotcha.
That game's a track meet right now.
Wow, that's
those are 2 possible trade partners with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Exactly.
Columbus.
2 good ones. Yeah, 2 really good ones. So, I mean, and the Rangers, I mean, who knows what – I mean, they've been playing a lot better, but who knows what Drury's going to do. He's not scared to make a big move. So,
No.
That's someone you might want to talk to. The Flyers are in the mix, which is really rare. I wonder if they're just going to stay the course or what their thoughts are. Pittsburgh, Kyle Dubas has said, let's do a fire sale. Don Sweeney in Boston, he is going to try to save his job by doing something. Something is going to happen there.
And they have an injury at goalie, right? I just saw it. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Markstrom got hurt against Boston.
Right. I mean, Ottawa right now and Columbus are in the playoff picture. I mean, no one saw that happening, and so that's exciting. Montreal they're losing tonight, but they have been flying of late, playing really good hockey. I mean, they're 1 point out of a wild card spot right now, so who knows?
Yeah. All these teams are definitely going to be calling Chicago about guys like Donato and Hall, maybe even Maroon and Smith, maybe Reichel. I think the Blackhawks will have no trouble finding a partner. It's just, are you picky about what you want? Are they offering what you are expecting, or are you going to hold on and see what happens?
Yeah. I mean, if it's Maroon, you just go, okay, here.
A 6th-round pick? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Craig Smith just went to the IR, so I don't know.
Does he go, my son Lucas Reichel has to come with me? Or
yeah, there you go. That'd be a big – that would help. That would help.
I'm just hoping one of these teams that are desperate to get to the playoffs for the first time in forever, here's a first-round pick in 27. We'll take it.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That screams Ottawa.
That's Ottawa. I was about to say that's
Ottawa, Columbus. I mean,
Ottawa, Columbus, and Detroit. Those are teams that haven't been in the playoffs in half a decade or more.
Desperate to get.
I think if you're the Blackhawks, you could play their desperation against each other in a bidding war.
And Columbus
out of the wild card.
Yeah.
Columbus said, I guess, in Friedman's 32 thoughts that they're not trading any of their veterans for middle round picks. They have no interest in doing that. So they're in it. And let's not forget, fellas, the 4-nation face-off is coming up in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The February 12th or whatever. So we're going to have that break in the NHL and see the 4.
That's going to be fascinating.
I could give 2 shits about that.
But I think a lot of people are starting to mid-season. I think a lot of people are feeling that way about it. I mean, I don't. And you've got there's all these. Well, and you can see, even if you Google it, I mean, I'm on some sort of email chain where people are trying to sell these packages of 4 nations tickets like it's Firefest. And it might have that kind of ending.
Is Blink-182 going to play in the 4 Nations?
Yeah. This thing is going to be a colossal failure. I heard about the ticket sales recently, and it's just, it's going to be a dumpster fire.
Well, plus
they really expected people to pay a lump sum for these tickets, and they're not selling.
It makes no.
They're not
sense.
selling at all. They're not selling at all, and they've left some names out. I bet they might want to do over with Connor Bedard. They left him out. That was dumb. I think that was dumb from a marketing perspective. You could say, "Oh, he doesn't deserve to be there." Fine. you market the hell out of that guy.
Yeah, you.
I don't know why you don't. But yeah, if you're struggling for ticket sales, why the hell would you leave him out?
Yeah, and also just the timing of it during the year, like near the Super Bowl, like right when March Madness is about to hit, basketball seasons.
Yeah, it is not going to get viewing. It's not going to work out. The other thing too is, I mean, you have guys that are hurt right now. Charlie McAvoy's injured right now. He's supposed to be one of the United States' better defensemen, and then our buddy is hurt. Our buddy in Minnesota. Why am I blanking on his name? Brock Faber's hurt. They're both supposed to be on the team, and are they going to come back and play their first game in the Four Nations?
No,
and not play for Boston or Minnesota. Like, it's just like,
how does their NHL team be like, we're paying your salary, you're not coming back for this?
Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to the Olympics with John Tavares when he was on the Islanders and got hurt, and it ruined their season. Absolutely ruined their season.
Yeah.
And they were doing really well, and so I don't know, these mid-season international deals. I just don't. Go back to trying a World Cup and seeing if you could build up momentum then.
And you do it before the season starts like they did the last time.
Yeah.
Like it was like during training camp, I think, or like right at the end of training camp, they had the World Cup of hockey with the – because I remember –
Canada Cup that they used to have?
What's up?
The Labatt's Blue Canada Cup. Remember
but I mean, that was some of the best hockey in the history of.
Love that thing. That thing was
like the '87 Canada Cup but that was back when the Soviets. They weren't NHL eligible, so it's like we got to play these guys.
Yeah, and Canada up until was it 72? They didn't play in the Olympics.
No,
were too good for it.
The World Cup of hockey in '96 went well when the U.S. beat Canada. I mean, that was great with Amani's goal. But other than that, I mean, as far as like there's no really international play in the NFL, but I mean, in MLB, not really. But as far as international competition, it just seems like this is the one sport that can't quite figure it out.
Well, yeah, right. And the World Baseball Classic has actually been gaining steam.
Yeah.
So like their model is, I think what the NHL tried to do the last World Cup of hockey was play it like towards the end of training camp and stuff like that, and kind of have it lead into the season to get excitement up about that. Because I remember I didn't watch many of the World Baseball Classic games, but when it was Ohtani versus Mike Trout, like you guarantee I had that on because they were teammates at the time, and you didn't get to see that.
Now, I will say, though, that last summer when Czechia won the World Hockey Championships, the scene in Prague was amazing. I mean, that meant a lot to that country.
For sure.
But, no one watched it over here.
No.
Where they're trying to get ratings.
And nobody watches, like, when the playoffs are going on and everybody's playing in the Worlds. Nobody watches that. Nobody watches the.
I forgot about the Four Nations until you guys just brought it up. I literally forgot.
I was like, we probably should talk about it because it's happening the February 12th through the 20th, and like we're less than a couple of weeks away, and that's why I brought it up. But everybody's hurt, so who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean.
Well, folks, if you're looking for some good hockey, this weekend is the Battle of the Commonwealth. Boston College and BU do a home and home, and it's really good stuff. I believe it's on ESPN Plus. But anyway, Ryan Green is playing in the game, obviously. And I mean, so many future NHLers will be on the ice. Ryan Leonard amongst them, and possibly first overall pick, James Higgins, possible future Blackhawk, James Higgins. So we talked about the draft in the last podcast.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's from Spittown, my hometown, baby.
Oh, nice. Okay, then we're pulling for him even more now. But so we could talk about the draft for a few minutes here because Jimmy, we've been on messaging, we've been going back and forth a lot, but. If the Hawks pick somewhere in the top 3, they should get one of the players they want, is what it sounds like. And this is the first year. Well, the last 2 years, it was a very clear cut who was going number 1. It was Connor Bedard and then Macklin Celebrini. This year, it's not so clear. Schaefer, the defenseman who Central Scouting rated number 1, if the Sharks have the number 1 pick, that's probably going to happen. if the Blackhawks do get the number 1 overall pick, that's probably not going to happen. Or maybe, I don't know. But Issa, Higgins, where are you with this right now, Jimmy?
I remember Bob McKenzie coming out saying he had 10 scouts saying Schaefer was the clear-cut number 1, with 7 out of 10 saying there was a wide gap.
He said that recently, too.
He said that like a couple days ago, and I talked about it in our chat. I don't see where this surge of Schaefer is coming from, especially since he hasn't played hockey in 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's
not going to play the rest of the year.
And it's not like, Higgins, Martone, and Misa have taken a dip in production.
No, Schaefer's got a broken collarbone. He's
going to be out.
He's out all of 2025. He's out the rest of this year.
So I think Eric, our editor, had put it nicely. It's just Schaefer is working from a very large advantage of just not having anyone at his position threatening him for the number 1 defenseman in the draft. You got Hensler, who's a pretty decent right-handed defenseman, but he's like the 10 to 12 range. And other than those two, I know there's one left-handed defenseman that I'm missing off the top of my head. But this draft is very forward heavy, and those top 3 forwards, of Higgins, Martone, and Misa, they really are fighting each other for supremacy, while Schaefer is, again, not even playing hockey, and he's the number 1 defenseman of this draft. I think I can see why the scouts are saying this, but when you're working in a situation where you have a monopoly on the market, which is what Schaefer has, you're going to get a lot of noise. I still think guys like Higgins and Misa and Martone are obviously fantastic forwards, and I would put them up there in terms of value with Schaefer without a second of hesitation.
Yeah.
I don't know what the scouts are seeing. Well, scouts aren't seeing anything. He hasn't played in 3 weeks. And again, Higgins had 9 points in 7 World Junior Championship games. He had 6 points in his last 5 college games. Misa is a scoring machine. Martone is a beast who is also a scoring machine, and none of them have put their foot off the gas pedal. I don't see how. I get if you say Schaefer's the number 1 pick in your opinion. I don't know how you say there's a gap between him and everyone else.
Yeah.
I see those top 4 as almost interchangeable. I feel like there's at least 8 to 10 teams who might sniff the number 1 pick who have completely different boards. And I would be surprised if any of them had the same board. Like, could the Predators have Misa at 1? Could the Blackhawks have Higgins at 1? Could the Ducks have Martone? Could Sharks have Schaefer? All very possibly true. So I don't know. I'm not buying Schaefer's the clear-cut number 1. I think it's a 4-legged race where one guy obviously has the advantage of not having to deal with other people at his position. Yeah. But again, he's injured. We're not seeing anything else. So I don't know how he could rise when he's not doing anything.
I don't know. I go ahead, Sean.
I think he benefits from not playing because there's no negative. There's no negative. Like if Higgins has a bad weekend or Misa has a bad weekend, like they could scouts and everybody could hold it against him. But
awesome. Welcome back, Jacob.
But also like Schaefer, you're just watching old tape. It's all hype now. It's all maybe he'll be healthy in time for the combine and all that stuff, but I don't know. I think he benefits by not playing right now because people are just idealizing his game right now because there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Well, I who knows? I mean, they might be like, well, that's one of the reasons we lost the World Junior Tournament and didn't medal at all is because he was out. So I don't, at the same time, first of all, Jacob, welcome back, buddy. Thanks for listening tonight. It's been a little while since you've been on. Hope you're doing well, man. At any rate, I think that the other thing we talk about roster moves, Bardo, and we talk about, trading some of those tradable players. If the Hawks land one of Higgins, Misa, and Martone, which seems likely at this point, that player is going to be on the opening night roster more than likely.
I don't know. Are we sure? Because we thought Lev Zhamnov could have been, but he's not. So.
Oh, I didn't even think Lev Zhamnov was going to sign. I thought he'd be at Michigan State.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
I thought he was going to go back to Michigan State.
Yeah,
I take that back. But I mean, I don't know. Are these kids NHL ready day one? That I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like Hagens and Misa. I don't know about Martone.
Yeah, I think Hagens is most likely.
Mhm.
Misa probably has a little bit of defensive game to build up that might require another year away. Martone, I think, is 50-50. I think Martone has the size and he also has the skill, but I think the best word to say for Martone is he's just rough around the edges and he's getting away with a few things, but he still has immense talent.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on how the ping pong balls fall. So it's certainly possible that they'll leave a spot open, if they get, say, the second pick and, they're going to take one of the forwards that's ready.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if Hagens goes 1 overall, I bet he leaves BC and goes into the NHL. If he goes 3, maybe he goes back to BC. If they don't win it all this year, who knows? I don't know. I mean, either way, the Hawks are in a position where they're going to get a damn good player,
and they're gonna take a forward because I mean, Davidson last year tried to get Demidov after taking Leshinov. So I could see a scenario where if he gets Hagens, maybe he tries to get back in and get one of the other forwards too.
Could be.
He wants a Kane to his Taves, he wants another really impact forward, so not everything falls on
Bedard.
On Bedard. So
and
that's clear.
Unfortunately, Nazar is not in that level of scoring. He's not in the Bedard, possibly Hagens level of scoring. So
he's a playmaker.
They need another. They need at least one, if not 2 guys.
Yeah.
Oh, and I just thought of this. We forgot. Is Nick Lardis going to sign this coming year too? Because
could be. Is he tearing it up? I haven't been following.
Yeah,
so many prospects. It's crazy.
He's in the top. He's in the top 10, I think, top 5 of the OHL in scoring.
Yeah, 69 points in 42 games. Yeah, I mean he could. Yeah,
he's on pace for 60 goals in 66 games.
And I think Powers had written earlier this year that he is viewed as the best pure sniper in the Blackhawks prospect system. Like, he's not a playmaker. Like, he's just a straight up goal scorer, and that's what he does. So we may have overlooked him earlier when we were talking about prospects to sign and opening up roster spots for. He just came to mind.
Yep.
Yeah. So good call. I forgot about him. Jeez. I mean, they really do have a smorgasbord of prospects, if you will. And 19 years young. And not even 20 till July. That's crazy.
Yeah,
cool. Well, good stuff tonight, guys. Appreciate it, Jacob. Always love your chatter and glad that you're listening. Now, Crevier or Creever, as we call him, certainly does not guarantee success. But yeah, and I also agree with you. Jimmy is an next level add to this group.
He is.
Thank you. Jimmy's been awesome. We love
not just his good looks either.
I'm the Rink's Calder Trophy finalist right now.
Not just
there it is. Yeah.
Post on Twitter,
Yeah. You didn't play enough last year to be eligible. You're still in your Calder campaign.
Yeah. I didn't burn a year off my ELC with the Rink.
Yeah. Well,
you're not Sergei Makarov, and you're like a 37-year-old rookie that just barely,
32-year-old rookie of the year or whatever he was. So yeah. Well, anyway, folks, stay positive out there in Hawk World during the cold months ahead. Stay healthy. Stay away from the flu. Hopefully, the Hawks can put together some W's. We'll see. I mean, tomorrow's Tampa Bay. That's going to be a tough one, but maybe they'll have a decent weekend. They've got Tampa, and I know they've got Minnesota, I believe, on Sunday night. So it's a long road ahead. But again, keep your eye on the prospect pool. Keep your eye on the trade market because things are going to start to get interesting over the next 5-6 weeks. Bardo, Jimmy, Sean, always awesome to see you guys. Have a great night, everybody, and go Hags.